Okay, Avatar, Legend of Korra. We're gonna talk about who we think is the best villain. Not the most powerful villain, but essentially like our favorite, best, like we think, yeah, they're the coolest, they're the best villain, you know? Okay. So since Chuku started last time, since Chuku started for our other discussion, which was the most powerful non-bender, I'm gonna go ahead and start because I was the last one to choose. And in my opinion, the best villain is Zaheer. Um, why are you laughing?
Because that's probably all of ours.
Oh, really? Oh, for real?
Yes. Yeah. It's yeah. I feel like there's no. I mean, yeah. I'll let you talk.
I'll let you talk. Yeah, that's
All right, for sure. Okay. So, I guess a couple points that make him, in my opinion, the best villain is that he came at a very interesting point in the story where everybody was like, or not everybody, but like random people were getting airbending powers. And that was like, I remember seeing the trailer for Legend of Korra, like book 3, when, before we even knew about Zaheer. And the fact that there were more airbenders just excited me like crazy. And then like all of a sudden this villain who is an airbender appears. And that already like adds so many layers to the character because he's into airbender like philosophy and he knows like the techniques of the airbender. And you would expect him to be like a good guy, but his goals are like, he wants to kill Korra. So he's essentially a villain and he's evil. So it just gives him a lot of layers. And the fact that airbending is like my favorite also just like gives him another like edge over the other villains for me. So that's one strong point. Since we all chose the same one, how about someone else go ahead and say their reason?
Talk about Zaheer. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's hard to choose like anybody else because if the discussion is who is the best villain out of Legend of Korra, Zaheer, he was like, for one, he's the most compelling. Like, he has the best backstory. He has the best personality of all the villains, in my opinion. And then his skills are just beyond like anybody else's. Because he starts out like, prior to this, he's like just a normal guy who learns all of these martial arts. He's like skilled in all of these different martial arts, and he is into these different philosophies. And then he just so happens to get the ability to airbend, and that's just the only thing that he needed to just take everything out.
Because his backstory was that, like the Red Lotus, each of them were experts at their bending abilities.
Yeah.
And he trained to actually be an airbender. Like, he studied the ways of the airbenders to teach, essentially Korra, if they kidnapped her correctly, airbending. But none of that really panned out. So that's why he was such a threatening airbender.
So I guess I will my point. Well, actually, the more I think about it, I'm on the opinion to believe that I won't even put Zaheer as the best villain because Zaheer, in my eyes, isn't a villain. But I get what you guys are. I get what you guys are really trying to be. I mean, for me,
he is a villain. He's trying to kill Korra. That's like,
that's true. But when you really think about from his ideology, like, it's not about like at the end of the day, he thinks that this is the best. It kind of goes back to Thanos, where he thinks that this is the best way for the world to live, that people should be free, and Avatar restricts people from order. So that's basically what his. That's
the natural order, which is chaos.
But you can argue that chaos comes from growth. So it's again, it's a different belief.
Yeah,
so. But, obviously he's an antagonist, so we're going to call him a villain. So I get where you're coming from. But I think for me, another point that I bring up with him, other than the fact that he's an airbender and that he's using airbender philosophy, and we finally get to see airbender philosophy, because airbender philosophy was known for this whole passive friendly, nice thing, and then we get to see him actually, like, we get to see Airbender be destructive. Like, he literally killed somebody with airbending. Like, that's some scary stuff there. But for me, the biggest thing that I liked about him and why I consider him the best villain was in season 4 when he helped Korra.
Yeah, I love that scene so much.
with her issue, and basically he was trying to explain that again, like, look, this is what I believe in. So it doesn't, like, even though we have different opinions, which is what the whole point of the theme of these villains is, just they have different extreme opinions. That being said, I still agree that at the time that I keep on forgetting her name now.
Who?
The main villain of book 4.
Kuvira?
Kuvira, yeah. Kuvira. The fact that he doesn't agree with Kuvira, and that's the reason why he wants to help Korra. And then the fact that he didn't do anything like evil or anything like malicious afterwards, it's just like, this is my goal. To me, it shows how much of a good villain good villain.
Antagonist?
Great antagonist he is, because it's like, it just goes to show that he still is like, it's still part of his belief to help her. It's not like something where it's like he changed. Like, he's still the same dude, but at the same time, he stick to his core belief, and we're just seeing the actions of it. And some of those actions can be good, or in terms of where he wants to help Korra. Other times it can be bad, where he wants to kill Korra. So that's where I consider him why he was the best villain.
Yeah. Well, for some reason, I thought one of you guys might have considered, like, I don't know, Amon or something.
Well, this comes to my honorable mentions now.
Okay, so, well, if we want to talk about Amon, the thing, so as far as Amon goes, I was so excited the first season of Legend of Korra that Amon was a character that, like, just captured me, that he was so interesting and so compelling. And his whole thing was he wanted equality, and as far as he saw, equality meant no more benders. And so that was interesting. And so I was very interested. I was very into Amon until the last episode of season 1. Until they revealed who he was, and it was just he was just a waterbender the whole time, and he was just doing it for, like, then his whole philosophy falls apart when you find out who he is and, like, what he's doing it for. And it's just, the reveal messed everything up. If he had just died and nobody knew who he was, nobody knew what his story was, he would have been, like, at least a contender for the best villain along with Zaheer, in my opinion. But
in some ways I can agree with you, but he still had an interesting backstory, like that the fact that he's a bloodbender, and the reason he's doing it was because he actually truly believes it, doesn't he? Like, he truly believes that bending is the root of like evil. Because of his father, because of the way he treated him and his younger brother. Was that not his philosophy, or? Yeah,
that was his philosophy. That was the reason why. I mean, it wasn't like directly, but basically Tarlok explained that because he noticed that his brother was so good at bloodbending, and see how his father was very power thirsty. You can see it's basically implied that that's kind of how he started this whole rampage of, like, screw bending, bending's evil.
Yeah.
So
it's not like he was just doing it for fun. Like, he still had a good reason. And I think that still makes him pretty compelling, even though he was faking it. And even though I wish he was, like, blessed by the spirits,
I know.
I was just like a random guy, because that's what initially I thought. I was like, oh, this guy must just be, like, juiced up by spirit power or something. But, like, apparently not. So I know how you feel, OC, but he's still a good villain in my opinion. Like, he's still, like, interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he's definitely very like I remember the minute like episode 2, I was just like, we're hooked on this guy, and we were like, dang, how's Korra gonna stop him?
Yeah.
And it was just, like already it was very interesting to see what was going to happen. But I understand the way he got defeated was just kind of lame. It was just like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was like, oh, come on.
And then the fact that Tarlock just had to like blast the Jesus out of them. Oh my gosh, I was so upset. I was like, this is how he ends? Are you I mean in a way I guess it's tragic and that's the point, but like oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's just he could have at
Yeah,
least had
man.
like I don't know, a redemption arc. I don't know, in some comic, I don't know.
Yeah, he could have. He could have. He could have. But yeah, his philosophy again was very. Again, you couldn't argue with it too, especially after watching Last Airbender. He's like, yeah, bending started war. We need to stop these benders, man. And it's just like I don't know. It's like you almost maybe because like we were kind of growing up, so you kind of pay attention to politics, but it's like you can kind of feel the politics within it. I really like the politics of his
I mean
character.
it's like it's pretty synonymous with like gun control essentially.
Yeah.
It's just like take away people's guns, take away people's bending. I don't know. I don't know. There's
Yeah.
some similarities if you think about it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that I think his whole philosophy was like there's nothing wrong with it. Like there was nothing wrong with his goals and the motivation that he had for bringing about equality by taking out benders. Sorry, because that's like all of that is perfect motivation for a villain. It's just that the fact that he himself was a bender, it kind of just throws everything else out the window.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, like I can see how like, sure, maybe he really does think that bending is the root of all evil, but it's hard for me to buy that when he like was so skilled at and practiced bending constantly, and so it's like I don't know. It's just it's hard for me to let that part of it
Yeah.
go.
I mean, the lieutenant understands your feelings, OC. The lieutenant that served Amon well and was just thrown aside. Okay, he understands.
Yeah.
Like he just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I understand, man. All right. Well, let's just give the other two villains a mention and why they're not on the list or why they're not, I guess, considered to be, or in my opinion, they're not even like I wouldn't even think of those two.
Actually, I have one more honorable mention.
Oh yeah, for sure, go.
I'm gonna put Varrick, man. Varrick.
Oh,
And
Varrick.
and you know, again, this goes back to villain because we always look at villains in terms of like, you know, how much chaos and how much like other people are suffering. But at the end of the day, what I consider Varrick a villain because at the end of the day, a lot of what he did was all selfish interests. Which
in book 2, yeah.
yeah, and you can argue book 3 that yeah, obviously he's more it's benefiting the people. So in some ways, but like that's why I consider him a villain, at least a good villain in my eyes. Because even with the selfish interests, it still played with his character. It's like I feel like it wasn't him being like a villain. Wasn't like it was. You know, a lot of people speculated about it, and I didn't believe it until I actually saw it. So that was interesting. But at the same time, it works with his character. It wasn't like you know sells. It wasn't He didn't have some dark story of turning.
Yeah.
You know, to want to.
But are you mainly talking about book 2 or because like what did he do in book 3 that was villainous? I don't.
I mean that's obviously book. I'm obviously talking about book 2. Obviously, book 3 and 4. He started helping, which I would argue that's more profitable reasons. But you know, he's a change man. It's a change man. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, he ended up marrying his assistant.
He went up marrying Julie. His evolution. I like to say he was the Tony Starks of their universe. So.
In a way, yeah, but just a slimier. At least in book 2, it's hard for me to call him a villain. To be honest, it's just like, in a sense, yes, in book 2 he was, but it's hard for me to like consider him like a full-on villain. You know, definitely a criminal because he.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go as far to say like an actual villain, but I can see how you can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my definition of villains antagonists, because I don't have the belief that, people are good or evil. It's
Yeah.
just, people have different beliefs and there's consequences for their beliefs. So
Yeah.
that's just my way of looking at it. But yeah, I get it. I see what you mean.
Yeah, but Unalaq for me was not very compelling. He just seemed to just really want power, and that's it. Like, he just wanted to become the Dark Avatar.
Yeah.
He didn't really care about his kids. I don't know. He just didn't have that much character, in my opinion. He just fell flat.
Yeah, I agree with you. He was just very flat. And I mean, it was cool hearing the idea of a dark avatar, but just I don't know, just the idea that it would just be a waterbender, and he was like, he's that strong of a waterbender that Korra couldn't even use all the elements against him. But
Yeah, I don't know, man. That bothered me for the longest time. The fact that he used Vatu to essentially kill Rava.
yeah,
And the past lives. I just hated that so much. I was just so upset about that for the longest time. I'm sorry. It's just
That's
like
what
yeah.
he essentially killed the memory of Aang in
Yeah.
Korra, and I was like, I can't like
I
you.
mean-
You're not the best. Are you kidding? I hate
Well,
you.
Yeah.
you gotta admit that's really villainous. You know what I mean?
It's villainous, but it's just I don't know. I hate him. Like it's just
Yeah, I don't know. I also, that's part of the reason why I feel like Korra as a show is not as good as Avatar: Last Airbender, because they like destroy everything that came before. Like they literally just destroy everything that came before. So I don't know. But yeah, that also made me really mad.
yeah. It upset me a whole lot. And let's just close off by mentioning Kuvira real quick. Why is
Girl,
she
I
not
forgot
part
her
of,
name.
like
Sorry.
yeah, why is she not part of like our consideration for the best villain? OC, how about you?
I feel like the thing with Kuvira is that, honestly, for me, like I feel like not much of what she did was very memorable. Like, I remember a lot about the other villains as far as like the interesting ones. I even remember Amon, but Kuvira, like she was an evil metal bender. What else? I feel like she's not very memorable. Like there isn't really much about her as far as like,
Yeah.
personality. It was kind of like she seemed like a throwaway villain at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, she did build a giant evil platinum monster.
Metal monster.
Yeah, metal monster.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, she killed. I forgot his name. Was it Sato? The guy who made the Sato mobiles. Asami's dad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like killed him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel you, dude. Like, she's not very memorable. I mean, I enjoyed that the book for the most part, just because like the characters I grew to love were in it and they're on a journey. But her as a villain, just I don't know. She kind of just like fell flat to me too, just because she just seemed to want to take over everything, and for what reason, it didn't seem. I couldn't understand her basically, like. Like, I mean, towards the end when Korra was saying how she understands how she feels, how Kuvira feels, and like, and everything like that, and then Kuvira just stands down. I kind of was disappointed, to be honest. I was like, is this really how it's gonna end? But, I guess they're trying to do something different where it's not like a fight to the death ending or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, I forgot her name, so that kind of proves Skillsy's point. This girl really wasn't that memorable. Yeah, I think with Kuvira, and this goes back to like Legend of Korra. I mean, again, Legend of Korra was never supposed to have more than one season.
That is true.
So a lot
That's
of
true.
stuff just came out of like And it takes, if you understand how long it takes to make a season, it's like a year technically with the episodes prepared. So it takes a long time. So for them they were kind of in a rush. And then I think another thing was they're getting a lot of backlash. So I just felt like Kuvira was that villain where it was like, how do we not make a horrible, like, I'm pretty sure by the time they were hearing a lot of backlash about the show, they were doing season 2, and then they're like, oh man, all right. And they already had season 3 ready, so they're like, how do we not make a horrible villain? And I think Kuvira is a good example of not a horrible villain, but then she just wasn't as compelling. And they tried to add her in season 3, but even then, I didn't even remember her in season 3. And I only know that because someone said, oh yeah, she was in season 3. I was like, oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
so they tried. I'll give it that with Kuvira. But at least she wasn't Unalaq. I'll say that.
Kuvira saved Tonrock, Korra's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Well,
Cool.
yeah, unanimous vote for Zaheer. Yeah.
Exactly, Zaheer. I knew it.
Yeah, you knew it. I didn't, dude. I thought someone was gonna choose Amon or something.
Nah, man. Zaheer. Like,
Too much disappointment in that guy. You guys stop it.